Superman is incredibly powerful, yes, but we all know he isn't invincible. We know about the nigh omnipotent being's Achilles heel, Kryptonite, but there are more ways to defeat the Man of Steel than simply chucking the glowing green rock in his general direction. The powers of Superman are well known: heat vision, flight, superhuman strength, speed, ice breath, impenetrable skin, and X-ray vision, to name but a few. Being endowed with such powers would make the character a god amongst men, so it is necessary for the publishers at DC to implant weakness and vulnerability into the character, otherwise the stories would be mundane and repetitive. If Superman was infallible, then the hero would lose his popularity. Nobody wants to read a comic where even the strongest nemesis cannot pose a danger to the titular hero, unless it's called One Punch Man. You want to see challenge, so without some latent weakness, Superman's veritable smorgasbord of spin-off material would have fizzled out years ago. This is perhaps best highlighted by the death of Superman's storyline, which increased sales in the dwindling comic by thousands. Weakness sells, and DC are aware of this. The Kryptonian powerhouse has been beaten many different times and by many different people. Let's talk about it. I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 different ways Superman has been defeated. 10. Brute force and trauma. Everyone knows this one. Even casual comic book readers and non-fans are aware that the monstrosity known as Doomsday beat Superman to death. Well, kind of death anyway. The Beast was born on Krypton and possessed strength comparable to the Man of Steel. Their battle was an enthralling one, with the final issues of the Superman comic depicting a blow-by-blow account of how Superman was killed. The issue ended with Superman laying bruised and bloodied in front of Lois Lane, finding out that he had stopped Doomsday, but amid a great cost: his life. Doomsday didn't need an advanced brain, technology, or luck to destroy DC's flagship character. The monster was pure muscle, with bone-like spikes protruding from his body in order to inflict the maximum damage with every single strike. Superman's ultimate loss in this battle was because he was simply inferior to the single-minded killing machine. It was all a sales ploy in reality, but despite these insincere motives, the storyline has become so iconic that the graphic novel is still one of DC's highest sellers. 9. Telekinesis. From brawn to brain, Superman has been beaten on both fronts. Doomsday showed that the seemingly impenetrable skin, hardened by Earth's yellow sun, could be broken with enough strength, but Manchester Black caused Superman much more damage with nothing more than his mind. Black had a growth on his brain which gave him telekinetic and telepathic abilities. In a showdown with the Man of Tomorrow, the English villain used these abilities to pinch the blood vessels in Superman's brain, causing Superman to exhibit stroke-like symptoms. The Man of Steel uses his heat vision to target the part of Black's brain which gives him this power, but the hero was nearly killed by the brain power of his opponent. Black has further constructed intricate illusions for the powerful Kryptonian, creating a vivid reality where everyone in Clark Kent's life, including Lois, had been killed by enemies on behalf of Black. Even though Superman eventually won the battle in this situation, he was fooled for a long time, contemplating taking Black's life as vengeance for the loss of Lois Lane. For a villain to bring Superman to his dark edge takes a lot, so Black's telepathic attack on Superman certainly warrants its inclusion here. 8. Kryptonite. It had to be on here, didn't it? The radioactive remnants of Superman's home planet ended up as his primary weakness, ensuring that even mere mortals could challenge the Kryptonian powerhouse in the right setting. The glowing green rock weakens Superman, while the red variant sees the hero lose his inhibitions. Black Kryptonite splits him into good and evil versions of himself, and the golden variety permanently removes the powers of Kryptonians. Lex Luthor, Batman, and Green Arrow have all used this radioactive substance to cripple and defeat the Man of Steel. And it consistently works. It not only sickens the mighty hero, but it causes him to be vulnerable to attacks by humans. And it is the most common thorn in Superman's side, although it isn't quite the most spectacular way to cripple the Man of Steel. But if it ain't broke, hey, don't fix it. 7. Nuclear weapons. In Frank Miller's seminal run on The Dark Knight Returns, Superman is forced to divert a Russian nuclear warhead, transforming the typically muscled hero into a skeletal frame of his former self. The comic later saw a one-armed Oliver Queen shoot Superman with a kryptonite arrow, allowing Batman to make his mark, showing Superman to be a fallible hero, beaten by Batman, Green Arrow, and a nuclear warhead. 6. Being deprived of sunlight. Superman's powers are given to him by the yellow sun of Earth, His home planet of Krypton had a red sun, and there, his people had human-like qualities. So if Krypton's last sun is deprived of sunlight, he loses his abilities. Like in the Flashpoint storyline, where the government kept the alien visitor isolated underground, making him a weak and feeble boy until he was given access to the sun. The fact that trapping Superman in a dark room for a long period of time will bring him to the same level as ordinary humans is a key weakness. Sure, it's hard to keep Superman subdued in a subterranean cavern, but if this can be accomplished, then the character is as good as dead. This doesn't mean that a dark room will defeat him on his own, but it means that with enough thought and planning, villains and governments have managed to exploit this weakness. 5. Magic. Yes, famously, despite his apparent invulnerabilities, Superman has no specific resistance against magic. He is as vulnerable as the rest of us to its torment. One of Kal-El's most irritating and consistent foes is the magical Mr. Mxyzptlk, a villain from the 5th dimension who can only be defeated by tricking him into saying his own name backwards. Although the character is usually a slightly amusing one, Alan Moore reinvented him into a twisted villain in the Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow storyline. He normally only troubles the Man of Steel with trivial issues, but in this story, the magical being is responsible for nightmarish horrors that deeply impact Superman. In one of Mixie's strange experiments, he gives the Joker some of his magical powers, leading to a new reality. In this newly formed reality, Superman is imprisoned in Arkham Asylum by Bizarro, and only Batman was able to end the chaos. In both of these stories, Superman was powerless to stop atrocities from occurring, requiring outside help to help him limit the damage being inflicted on the DC universe. 4. Psychological distress. Some of the darkest hours for the Man of Steel have been caused by the loss of, or perceived death of, his loved ones. The fact that Kal-El has been bestowed with such amazing gifts, yet Clark Kent's associates are fallible and mortal humans, means that Superman has to cope with a very real sense of loss. Perhaps the loss of Lois Lane and Metropolis in the Injustice universe best demonstrates Clark's vulnerability to psychological distress, as it only took an encounter with the Joker to push Supes over the edge and become a tyrannical dictator. 3. Red Sun radiation. As said earlier, Superman gets his powers from Earth's yellow sun, but under a red sun, Superman is reverted to mortal stature. In Superman Red Sun, a 3-issue storyline exploring what would have happened had the infant Kal-El landed in the Soviet Union, President Lex Luthor teams up with Batman to trap Supes in a radiation chamber designed to sap the hero's powers. Superman would have been beaten to a pulp had Wonder Woman not freed him from his confinement. Although the Red Sun doesn't necessarily defeat Superman, it enables pretty much anyone to attack him as if he were a weak human being. This makes it one of the most innovative and interesting ways that Superman has been bested in comics. 2. High-pitched frequencies. Man of Steel showed how a young Clark Kent struggled to hone his newfound ability to hear nearly everything, and in the climactic battle with Zod, the villain was caught off guard through this peculiar power. Superman's enhanced hearing enables him to always hear Lois Lane's constant screams, and help him to find incoming police sirens, but they are also one of his key weaknesses. Like any of us, loud noises can be extremely painful for the hero. Sure, they aren't the only way to defeat Superman, but they provide a crucial stepping stone on the way to pummeling the Man of Steel, something we saw Batman employ to his advantage at the start of his duel with Clark in Batman v Superman. 1. Wonder Woman's sword. DC's Amazonian princess has crippled the Man of Steel by attacking his hearing in the past, but she also possesses one of the few objects in the DC universe which can penetrate Superman's ultra-hard skin, her sword. Her weapon was forged by the gods and has been shown to be so razor-sharp that it can cut electrons from atoms. Wielding this weapon makes Wonder Woman one of the biggest potential threats to the Man of Steel. It is a good thing that she typically aligns herself with him, although the pair have come to blows in the past. Aside from Batman, it's arguable that Wonder Woman is the Man of Steel's greatest threat, should the rest of the Justice League ever turn against him. And there you have it, folks, 10 different ways Superman has been defeated. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDogU. Also, swing by WhatCulture.com for daily news, lists, articles, quizzes, and all that other funky internet stuff. You can also subscribe and ring that notification bell as a way to support the channel for free. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.